All right, welcome everyone to another Facebook Live guest interview. And today's guest is none other than Claire Cooper. A lot of you know her from back in her days with Living Matrix. That's where I met Claire for the first time. And over the years, we have tag team on so many projects. So we're very complimentary in what we provide. So I thought great to have Claire's viewpoint on in this group. And welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with all of you.
Yeah. So, obviously you've been in this field for a long time, in terms of customer service and, over the last few years more in a consulting role, working with hundreds of practitioners on their technology. And again, we're going to go into what exactly your team is providing and what you're the expert in. But where have you sort of seen this whole field gone? If you compare 5 years back to where it is now, how has practice technology evolved? Do you feel like, it has become a lot easier, or do you feel it has become a lot more complex?
It's a great question. I mean, I think so. I've been in the functional medicine world now for about 15 years and dating back into really just delving more into the customer side of things, like the patient side. And when we were doing this, we were building these practices from scratch. And technology was the most crucial part to all of it. If we didn't have the tech piece, we weren't able to track information. We couldn't get people through their journey. We weren't able to do intake forms. And so while I have seen such grand steps in technology, it's also sort of become subscription nightmare, right? And everyone is pushing technology. They're trying to tell you to buy this, buy this. But if you haven't really created the architecture first, or you haven't really designed what it looks like, you're sort of out there in like what I call infobesity world, where you're just inundated with tech information. And it's really not what our practitioners were born to do. They went to school to be healers. They went to school to just treat patients. I love marketing and I love technology, but talking in marketing language or tech language to a practitioner is very similar to when they try to teach me about an organic acids test or like a Genova lab. Like, I don't know what they're talking about. And so they very much sort of recoil when we talk about technology. And I would say over the years, it's gotten harder. It's gotten harder because the practitioners are almost expected to be the solopreneur. They are expected to be the end all for everything business, and they should just know. They're smart. They should just know how these things work. And I don't think I think it's a disservice to them. And ultimately it becomes a disservice to the patients because, that's why I do what I do every day. I do this. I love you guys as practitioners, but I do this for patients, and I do it so that they have an easier way to understand this sort of business model that we've created and also onboard effectively and have better health outcomes in the end. And that's all really leveraged through technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And
So, yeah.
this is where both of us are very much alike. That for us, our impact manifests itself by enabling practitioners to be more efficient with their time. Have technology help them, and not have to be in the driver's seat for every single decision. How do I build the website? How do I pick a CRM? And just like a practitioner would refer a patient to a specialist, if this is outside their area of expertise, I feel that's the same true for practitioners, selecting a technology partner. So why don't we go into this first segment, talking about what to consider when selecting any technology, whether it's technology for your website, for your email marketing, or, I think more specifically in your case, how to manage the practice, the EMR, whatever else is going in there. And then you talking about, anticipating what the architecture actually looks like before you start building it.
Yeah, I think more than anything, just start with a list. I have told this to practitioners from the beginning. They get very overwhelmed with the amount of decisions that have to be made when creating this business. I meet people all the way back in their initial schooling with, the IFM at some of these, like AFMCP, for example. This may be the first time they're introduced to something other than a conventional medicine type of business model. And they have to decide Am I going to go and do this on my own? Am I going to create a collaborative care team? Am I going to try to do this and fit it somehow? So the first thing is, what does your business model look like? Are you going to be a hybrid where you're sort of in an insurance world, but also a cash pay model? Or are you strictly cash and you're designing like a membership or a package or fee for service? Because once you identify the business model, then you have to identify, how am I going to communicate with these patients? And that really then lies into your electronic medical record. One thing I think a lot of people do is a detriment, and I love you, but I see it every day in these groups that we're in, which is ask the audience, right? Well, what works best? What works best for John's model isn't going to work best for Julie's model. And that's because John's an MD and Julie is a PA, or somebody else is a health coach, or somebody else is a nutritionist. And you really have to think about, what are my credentials? What am I allowed to do legally? Meaning, do I need to have a meaningful use EMR, right? Do I have to have that because I want to e-prescribe and do all these really high tech sort of things? Or do I just need something that schedules, tracks, and makes a patient note, right? So if you know your business model first, then you get to really kind of hone into the type of technology that lives there. The next thing I think about, other than credentialing, is the customer journey. So if you think about what these patients are to us now, if you're going down that cash pay route, they are customers, right? That's just what they are. Like, they're paying us for a service now. We don't just have to worry about one thing. We got to worry about the whole experience. And if I don't say it enough, the remarkable experience is the reason why patients will sign up with you, stay with you, and have better health outcomes. So if at any point along the way your technology drops off or doesn't talk or isn't connected or seems clunky, that experience erodes over time. And so if you think about what that customer journey is and you really map it from the beginning, that's where Uli's team comes in paramount. It's that contemplation, that decision making. What are they doing? What information are they getting from your website? How are they able to connect with you? What type of email marketing are they going to have access to if they do sign up on your site? Do you have a lead magnet? Again, we say these things because they're second nature terms to us, but all I'm saying is, how is that person getting attention, right? How are they getting to your site? And then how are they able to interact with you? From there, what does that activation look like, right? Like, how are we onboarding them? How do they know how to work with you? I think you actually just did a series of this on the best 15-minute consult, or how to do a free consultation. So many of my clients don't even have a link on their site to perform a free consultation. But how is somebody going to know to work with you if they don't know you, like you, or trust you yet? That just doesn't make sense. You have to give away a small fraction of your time. And I say this, a small fraction of your time, because it's important for them to get to know who you are. I don't know if you've seen that video, but I highly recommend you go watch those, because there is a recipe for a 15-minute consult that works, and one that doesn't take up a lot of your time. And so then once they've activated, right, once they've gotten that onboarding piece taken care of, it then moves into more of the assimilation and advocacy role, where we want them to be educated on what they're doing within your practice, why you're asking them to do it, what you need from them. Are they ready to take on this huge change that's about to happen? And are they going to evangelize your practice? Is it easy for them to tell somebody else what you do? Is it easy for them to send them to your site, send them a link, get them engaged, right? And so those are all things that I like to think about in the customer journey, which is from the beginning, how are they finding you? How are you onboarding them successfully? And then what does it look like in the long term?